South Africans are days away from the national and provincial elections, with many citizens trying to figure out who to vote for and why. Votes from young people is crucial. Vote Mzansi is developing a playbook on driving youth voter turnout through an outbound campaign that aims to get 18 to 25-year-olds to the polls. For more on this, we are joined by Keorapetse Moloabi, who's a curator of Global Shapers Hub. Keorapetse, a pleasure to have you on the program this evening. Firstly, tell us a bit more about, or give us an overview of the Vote Mzansi campaign and also its main objectives.
Thank you, Nhlanhla. So, Vote Mzansi is a campaign that we developed after realizing that in our previous election cycle, the youth registered to vote, but not as many actually turned up on voting day. So the main objective was us trying to find out where are the issues lying, why are we not turning up on voting day to the polls, and we developed this campaign, firstly, where we're engaging the youth on where their issues lie, and then trying to address those issues by providing educational content on our website. So this website is literally curated with all the information that we've pulled together from various resources to kind of make it like a one-stop shop where the youth is able to see, okay, what am I going to expect on voting day? Who can I vote for? What are my options out there? What to expect after election days? And what is the voting process and the importance of it? So essentially, that's just us making sure that we garner the information that we need to give it to the youth to make sure that they understand what is happening.
Also interesting is that the campaign targets historically disadvantaged young people. Why is this demographic so important?
Because we know that our disadvantaged, previously disadvantaged demographic are the ones that really lack access to education and knowledge. And this is the youth of tomorrow at the end of the day, right? So they need to understand the impact of voting, the impact of governance in our country, because this country is a country that they will live in tomorrow, the country that their future children will live in tomorrow. So we've made it sure that we are giving them access to this education so that they are better empowered come May 29th to make the right choices.
But what specific strategies and even tools are being employed by this campaign to really increase youth voter turnout?
So what we decided is, with Tshwane Hub, because we are a youth development focused hub, we decided that we're going to now take the voices of the youth and create educational content that they can relate to. So we went out on outreaches to various universities in Pretoria, where we spoke to the youth on the streets to understand where are their issues lying. And from there, we used the content to create various social media elements on TikTok, and Instagram, so that they are able to engage with that content and understand it better so that they know, okay, this is exactly what it means when I go and vote.
But are there primary challenges that you faced in really engaging young voters? And how do you address the widespread political disillusionment, if you will, among this age group?
Of course, we faced some challenges, right? Just getting, firstly, the youth to engage, because everybody's always saying, oh, I don't really want to engage in politics. It's not really my space. But at the end of the day, you don't have to be involved in a political space for this to affect you. Voting is a civil right, right? It's your right as a citizen of this country, because you end up choosing who governs the country and what that means for you. So we had a bit of, backlash or, people not really wanting to engage. But once we started speaking to them and saying, look, we are youth just as you are. We have the same issues and they affect us. And getting them to use their voice and letting them that we want your voice to be heard, it was easier for us to then start getting them to engage. And that's how we even ended up getting to our four core topics that we did put up on our website that were saying, okay, here's where the gaps are. Let's furnish you with the necessary education in this part. So we've used various tools, right? And even with our social media, the first videos that we posted when starting the campaign, we got over like 20,000 views from people. So you're starting to see that, okay, people are now starting to say, okay, here's content that's simple to follow and it's from my peers. So let me see what they're saying.
Keorapetse, how important is it for civic education, especially in your efforts to boost voter participation? Are there any particular programs or even initiatives that you are implementing to indeed educate young people as well?
Look, civic education is important for everyone, right? You need to know what it means when you're being governed and what the people that you choose to govern you are doing, right? So more so when people have an understanding, then they make better choices about who the people that they want are to govern them. And we are making sure that we provide these resources in a simple way. So the basis, obviously, of the campaign is that you'll go on the website, you'll take a survey, right? And this survey is kind of a fun way to engage about your knowledge and your knowledge gaps. And then further to that, we're trying to test your political personality, if you want to put it like that, to say, okay, these are more the parties where you are probably likely to vote for because they have the same values that you would have. But it doesn't mean that that's the end all of it, right? So from there, you still use the website to kind of have a better overview and knowledge in general of what is happening in the current political landscape.
Yeah.
And like I said, because we're pulling resources from everywhere and just making it an easier one-stop for you, you're going to have better knowledge about, okay, this is what my options are, this is what I need to do in order to be successful at the polls on May 29.
But don't you run the risk of being seen as a platform that also would try to persuade people to vote for a particular party?
Of course, yeah, that question has come up. But look, we are not politically affiliated in any way. Our job is to say, let's educate everybody on a broad landscape. So we would never try and say vote for X or Y party. Our job is to say, here are your options on the table. And this is where one party speaks to you more, that's maybe where you're more inclined to vote. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum you are at. If you are happy with who's currently governing, you still have to vote to keep them there. If you want change, you still have to vote for that change to come into effect. So that's what our job is. Our job is to say, here are your options, because the political landscape has changed quite a bit over the last 5 years. So even if you're not a first-time voter, you still have lots of learnings to do before you get to voting.
Let's speak about how can community organizations and NGOs support your campaign. What role do they play in really supplementing the efforts of Vote Mzansi?
Yeah, so we've collaborated with quite a few organizations currently to help us with the campaign. So the simplest way for us, really, if we're being honest, is for them to amplify our messaging. So sharing that this is a resource for you, you know, leading people to the website, encouraging people to sign up for the survey that is on the website about, you know, where their knowledge is and about their political personality, and just making sure that everybody understands that there is a platform for them to get information from, right? But we've also partnered with youth business owners where they'd give us incentives for people signing up. So it's ways like that that we really appreciate for people to really collaborate with us on this.
But how will you measure the success of the Vote Mzansi campaign? And what key indicators will you be looking at to really determine its impact? Sure.
So, like I said, part of the process of this campaign is for people to take the quiz, right? So when they take up the quiz, obviously they'll give us their personal information that they opt into. But one, it's also for us to be able to keep them updated on any changes, like information coming from the IEC as they come up. So what will happen is after you've signed up, on the day of voting, we will also ask you to please share like your picture at your voting station to say, I voted, because what we're going to do is also run another campaign on top of that at the end of voting day to say, you know, get ready to vote with me. We voted as the youth, and just amplifying the youth voice to really show people that this is not something that it's not a journey that you really have to go on your own. Yes, your voting choice is yours alone, but the process of it and getting everybody involved is something that you do in unity. So that's how we're going to be able to get those metrics in with everybody that will be sharing their photos and their journey on the day.
Keorapetse, what innovative approaches have you found the most effective in really engaging young voters? And can you share any success stories or examples from this campaign?
Yeah, so the gamification of the quiz, right? So what we did during our outreaches, when we were out in the streets at the universities, we would obviously have the quiz on the game and just engaging the youth on that. And it made them really more keen to then actually, you know, speak to us and engage with us about the campaign, unlike when you're just speaking to a person one-on-one, right? So that really made it, I think that's a way that really made it easier for us to engage with the youth. And like I said, you know, once we posted the video with the content that we got from those responses, people were really happy to hear from their peers, and that really got us more people coming in. We even had radio stations then, you know, reaching out to us to say, okay, let's speak more on this campaign. Let's hear what you guys are trying to do down on the road. So I think that's one of the ways we thought, okay, what does the youth need? And as a youth, how do we speak to our peers in a language that they understand?
And as we wrap up, and beyond the upcoming elections, what are the long-term goals for Vote Mzansi, and how do you plan to even sustain this youth engagement in the democratic process?
Of course. So we are developing this playbook, and the aim of this playbook is to be able to give somebody a resource that they will go back to at each election cycle, where they say, okay, here's a team of young people that came together and thought out, how do we engage youth to actually get involved in voting, right? Because it's one thing to register, but it's a whole other thing to actually get to the polls and vote. So this playbook is going to be there to furnish you with the necessary tools for you to be able to say, okay, let's use these guidelines and see how we speak to the youth and continue to get all the other ages as they're coming up, you know, those generations that haven't voted but still yet to vote. How do we actually speak to them in a language that they understand in order for us to make sure that they continue to grow their numbers on voting day, so that we have, you know, the adequate numbers of youth being represented at the polls. So that's really the penultimate goal for us, is to have this playbook published as a resource for everyone to use as a guideline.
Keorapetse, thank you so much for joining us in studio and telling us about this fantastic platform.